Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm joined with Richard Hoiles. First of all, Richard, a big thanks for coming on.
My pleasure, Joe.
So take me back to your first ever meeting that you commentated on and how that one went.
Well, the first one I ever commentated on on track was at Hereford. In those days, not all the meetings were shown on SIS, and so I was only providing an audio commentary, which was being re-spoken by the guy in the office. The guy in the office was Robert Cooper, and after about 3 or 4 races, he got this message saying, he's doing okay, but perhaps he could just try and keep the horses in roughly the same order. And so I got to know you tended to write down what the order was if you juggled it up too much. And it took quite a long time actually to begin to work out exactly how best to do everything. But the first one I did with my own voice going out was Sun's Cup final day in 1992 at Bath. And that was the first time my voice actually ever went into the betting shops. There was a separate betting shop commentary in those days. So I had to go in on the Monday morning to check it actually happened.
And on average, how do you prepare for a day's work?
So from my side, the preparation comes in 2 parts really. The first part is the night before, print off all the colours, go through the field, check pronunciations, make sure you know all the jockeys' first names. I also mark up greys, mares, fillies, so trying to avoid the he and she mistakes, which I make all the time. Trainers in and out of form, some ratings, and price, overnight price in the market. And once I've done that, then that's it. Draw a map of the track or a list of the draw. And that's it then until they go to post. Then when they go to post, I'll learn them just race by race and then forget them. So I don't actually learn any of the colours, apart from very unusually, until the very last minute. So, but all of the other prep's done before that.
And do you pre-prepare lines to try fit into your commentary, or is it all just off the cuff?
Yeah, so in terms of lines, what you tend to do is you learn the stories, but not the lines themselves. So, for example, if it's somebody's 50th winner or 100th winner or something like that, then you have that in the back of your mind, as that's going to be the main sort of editorial story. The thing you're never quite sure of is how long you've got to deliver the line. So if something is a mile clear, you've got plenty of time to deliver a line. If something's just scrambling home by a short hedge, you've got very little time at all. So if you try and think of a line that takes, say, 3 seconds to deliver, you might not have that 3 seconds. You might actually have a lot more than that, so you can spread it out. So learn the stories, but not the actual lines, I think is probably the message I'd send to people. And they can also sound very contrived. You're watching something live that isn't going to develop the way you think it's going to if you sit down beforehand, or very rarely. So yeah, think of the story, but the actual line itself, don't over-prepare it, otherwise I think, for me at least, it sounds a bit over-prepared, it doesn't always fit.
And do you have a hardest race to call, or is it all second nature to you?
I think the hardest races to call actually are the small field novice chases when nothing happens. So think of we've had a spate of 2 or 3 runner races in recent weeks, and they're horrible because you actually have to think of things to say. A leads B, and they stay like that for 2 miles. Strangely enough, I actually prefer the races where you don't have time to think, the 20 runner handicaps or what have you. Ideally, from our point of view, a nice day is field sizes between 7 and 12 or 7 and 14. But I'm certainly less not intimidated. I'm less bothered by a 20 runner race than I am by a 2 or 3 runner race at times, because you stumble over a couple of things in a 2 or 3 runner race trying to think of things to say, and you just think you're making a pig's ear of something that in theory should be simple, but in actual fact I think it's probably quite a bit, not necessarily harder, but it certainly requires a different approach for a small field national hunt race, I think.
And when you have bets on the races that you're commentating on, is it hard not to be affected by that?
It depends whether it's been given a shocker or not, doesn't it? I think it's pretty straightforward. I mean, I tend to have periods when I bet, and they tend to coincide with when I'm working less, so it tends to be national hunt winter, but it varies. But every now and again there will be, I won't deliberately not choose meetings that I have before. And I've always felt that, if you're going to tip or be involved in the sport, you should not, it should mean something to you as well. But I don't know, probably for others to judge. In the past, people have, said, "Oh, you'll clearly back that," but I rarely have. Those that think they know don't seem to have a particularly good strike rate. I think I can tell when another commentator's had a bet, but then maybe people say that about me. I don't know, but no, most of mine is genuine excitement or disbelief or bewilderment, and most of my horses aren't at the front anyway. That fact, so it doesn't happen too often. But no, I don't think it affects too too much now. Maybe it did at once upon a time, but not really these days.
And do you have a favourite course to commentate at?
Split it into two. There's the really nice places. There's Goodwood, which is absolutely majestic. York's really nice. Places you enjoy working. From a commentary box point of view, Doncaster and Chepstow are probably two that I really like. The paddocks in front of the stands for a start, so you can learn them gradually as they all come in one by one, and then when the jockeys walk in. So Stan Clark for our late Stan Clark used to put his paddocks in front of the stands. They were moved at various places, and I do find I like that. I find it easy to learn. And height, if you go and watch a race, I know you're local to Beverley. If you go and watch a race, go and stand by the furlong marker on the ground, and I ask you who's in the lead, it's really difficult to tell. But if we were up at the back of the grandstand, you could see clearly. So height is really important. So yeah, I like height, a paddock in front of the stands. Those two are the ideal for me, and Doncaster and Chepstow are two good examples.
And do you have a horse that you're looking forward to see for the rest of the season?
Yeah, National Hunt wise, it's always nice when they bring them back. I think of the younger horses, big Bob Ollinger. I liked him last year when I was doing the videos for pre-Cheltenham. We don't see as much Irish racing as I should, so I always feel I need to record videos and go right back to the beginning of their careers. And I love the way he was late developing. He looked a bit raw as the season went on. He looked a lot more impressive, and then the way he left Brave Man's Game for Dead at Cheltenham with that wonderful jockey cam shot. So I think he's very exciting. But then you get great enjoyment out of wins from the likes of Frodon and Sir Royale in recent weeks. For commentator, they're old friends. We know them really, really well. They stay in the same ownership. They run in all those races. So it's great to see them around. It's great to see them having success. So yeah, I'm a bit of an old softie when it comes to the National Hunt horses. They are like old friends. They don't even have to be any good. They're just horses from your patch that you've pulled down the ears, or a set of colours that you recognise. That can give you some pleasure, or even if you know someone who owns the horse. We spend most of our time giving people bad news that their horse is beaten, so it's rather nice when the horses that win have some link to you or someone that you know. So yeah, hopefully they'll all come back safe and sound, which is always the most important thing.
And finally, where do you see yourself and the sport in the next 5 or 10 years?
Probably in slightly different places, I would have thought. Myself, I think once to get behind on 5 years, then hopefully I'll begin to be winding down a bit. I'll be 60 then, and I'd like to spend some time going around the tracks and concentrating more on racecourse commentary for my last few years, because it's an opportunity to see the country and get to lots of tracks who supported me out when I started. ITV is fantastic, great deal of fun, but it is pretty much full on with the number of meetings that we cover. And if we're lucky enough to get one more contract, then that'll be great. But after that, probably time for somebody else to get the fun that I have had. So the sport, that's a lot harder, really, I suppose. I think the great thing would be if the sport, everyone just needs to pull together a little bit more. It's easy to say, hard to do. Everyone wants to defend their corner. But I think we probably just need to decide where the common good is, where we want to get to, and then everybody decide whether, as things come up, they move you towards that or not. Sometimes defending your own vested interest, whilst it might seem important at the time, can hold back the sport. And I've got too many vested interests, unfortunately, all putting in different directions. It does require people, I think, to take the occasional hit for something that doesn't suit, because you recognise that it does suit the sport as a whole. So hopefully it'll be beginning to flourish again in 5 or 10 years, because it has gone backwards in the last 5 or 10, partly COVID related as well. But yeah, hopefully it's flourishing, Joe, for when you're going, and enthusiastic people. For those of us that love racing, get out there and sell it. You can spend a lot of time being defensive, but the horse is fantastic, and if you go and stand by a fence and watch a horse jump it at 35 miles an hour, maybe like me, you'll get hooked for the rest of your life, because it's a great experience. It is a great sport. It has its issues, but sometimes we focus on the issues rather than the horse.
And that wraps up the interview there, so a big thank you for joining us, Richard.
My pleasure, Joe. All the very best.
Yep. Thanks for watching, everyone, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.